Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 118 of my modded Factorio playthrough. So, we need to have 3 belts of capacity today. Let's put this down here. With the potential... Actually, probably should put it the other direction. Need to move this. It's kind of the short of this. With the potential to have 6 red belts in total. So, let's do a little something here. Let's take our design and copy it and put it up here to give us 4. Well, it's actually, yeah, we can do quite a bit of copying here. So let's place everything down, which will give us our full size 6 belts worth of processing. And then we'll get rid of all of the important stuff, if that makes sense. So we need 3 red belts worth. So let's make this belt 1, belt 2, belt 3. And then this other stuff can be blank. So this is 4, 5, and 6, which is blank. We just need the space for it. But we don't actually need that capacity right now. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how exactly to do this. Let's remove just everything to here. Let's see, so we also don't need these. We want to kind of leave the power poles there to help figure out the placement. I kind of want to leave these belts here just to more easily mark the area that they're going to be taking up, even though it's slightly too many parts. I wonder if there's a better way to do that, though. Actually, potentially just leaving this last belt, because that's the very lowest part of the design here. It is this part right here. And something could potentially immediately butt right against it. So that means we don't need these things right here. So we need lots more blue inserters, or purple inserters here. That said, since we're using so many of these, probably should let this fire up and build a bunch of them. That's our design here. We have our 3 belts worth of production, and then 3 belts worth of space. Or we can easily just copy the rest of this in here, if we needed to. We just, probably just what we would do is, kind of as we did here, make a copy of this top section right here, and then just go click and click, and then it would fill it up. Another consideration is, should we split this design into multiple blueprints? And you would do that to save on robot power, because robots, the longer they have to travel, the less efficient they become, especially these early robots. But this design isn't that big. It doesn't look like it's too big a deal just to park it right here and then let the robots do their thing. Just buzz around. So it looks pretty good, so we'll remove this and then copy the entire design. Now we will have to kind of change these resource types for every new blueprint we put down. I don't know if there's an easy way to do that. I don't think so, but it'll probably take me more time to learn than just to do it, so there we go, we've got our blueprint. So let's pick everything up here. I do have the blueprint, just double, triply make sure. Yes, it's there. Okay, we need to calculate how many resources we need, because we have to build 6 of these, 1 for each resource. Even though there's a gap for the power poles, it's still pretty compact as far as placement of all the parts. There's not a whole lot of empty space. Let's worry about the big stuff first. With belts, we need 165 times 6, so 990, but we're going to need tons and tons and tons more, because we have to populate our bus with belts. So probably just grab everything we have, or everything we can get here. This will definitely... it'll be enough for the design. It might not be enough for what we actually need. In fact, I might pick up an entire new stack when all this calculations are figured out. So 63 times 6 is 378 inserters. So that's 200. Well, let's just put all this in here. Actually, we're pretty close. Just about another 100, so we'll let that calculate. 252 blue inserters, which there are lots of. Okay, that'll cover it for blue inserters. Don't have to be exact, because we're going to use all this stuff for certain at some point in the future. We'll do the hand building last. 18 times 6 is 108. Actually, we're going to need a bunch of these, too, for all of our belt operations, so I'm going to let that fill up and just consume lots of resources. We'll probably need to make a resource strip out of this. Luckily, this design, though, doesn't have too many parts. It's pretty easy to calculate and figure out what we need. So we need 90 power poles. Just grab our 100. Really? Only 4 lights in this whole thing? Yep. Because the other lights are spaced elsewhere, so that's good. So the last thing we need are all of those crushers. 126 of them in total. So we're gonna need lots of bricks, and we have lots of bricks. And probably lots of steel gear wheels and all manners of steel. If the bus catches up before we leave, we can also pick up some resources to build the necessary train stations for this. But there's no point in waiting around for resources if we could be building while we're waiting for the resources to come back, because building a train station is just going to require enormous... Just click on that and look. It's going to require an enormous amount of belts, basically. And we technically only have this one machine making belts, so there's kind of a limit. It looks like it's only finally starting to get to belts because it was making undergrounds because of how intensely iron hungry they are. So let's do an inventory check here. Belts. Yep. Inserters, blue and purple, yes. Are making the final crushers, undergrounds, power poles, and lights. And just lots of belts. Yeah, lots of extra belts, basically. I don't think we need any splitters or anything, because we're not doing any kind of balancers or anything. So, we should be good with what we have here. So actually, we probably can get underway while we're waiting for the rest of these constructions, the rest of the building queue to occur. It just occurred to me that one advantage of having multiple blueprints for the purposes of using robots to build these different machine assemblies is that there's perhaps less changing of the inserter settings. Because if we're using one blueprint for everything, that means we have to change essentially everything by hand for the different resource types, compared to smaller individual blueprints that we potentially have to do less clicking to copy settings over. I'm not sure how much time that would save us in this case. Probably not a whole lot, because there's really not that many machines in this, compared to other designs in the future, which would be larger. Keep thinking of the washing, which is especially large and complicated. So we'll just use the design as is for now. Find our way to the train tracks, but be warned, they are live and active now. So we can't drive directly on them. And we have all of our ore ready to go. Okay, let's get an idea For how much space this is going to take. Something like that. So it's probably worth just kind of mass picking everything up there. Of course, that's nowhere near the total amount of space we're going to need for this. Oops, way too many items. That's a bunch of mess on the screen. Go away. Okay, so for efficient placement of these things, we should try to be as reasonably close to the system as possible. Looks like we are. It looks like the highest it can go is here and still have straight belts. So let's do that and have it just space those two spaces over. No, no, no! I accidentally clicked. Go back. Robots are confused. Oh, they're placing all of that still. What was I saying? Oh, spaced over here, just to have a little bit of gap between where the bus starts and where the machine starts. Room for undergrounds and splitters and that sort of thing. So, something like this. Let's try to get up nice and close. We have an orb that came from somewhere. Just like that, it's down. So let's do some power poles across the top of this. I didn't put the lights in here. Didn't I? Or did I just not pick up lights because we needed so few of them? Probably what it was. No, I don't want to necessarily run these belts all the way down. But I do want to hook them up and at least make sure the machine works. Of course, we've already tested it once, but it would be nice to test it in place. So the resources go in. And they come down. I'll put this back here. So something like that. It's cool seeing all the different colors of all the orbs and everything. So the next one needs to go in right there. Now our inventory is going to be filled with all these random resources. And come out here and down. Looks like this one needs to probably do a little bit of a shimmy to get in there. Wonder if there's a clean way to do this. Probably not. That's probably as clean as it's ever going to be. Something like that. There we go. Our 3 belts of crushed bits. Of course, we also have to belt up all of this crushed stone, but since we don't have anywhere to send it yet, we'll just leave it in there for now. Before we get too carried away placing belts down, let's get the rest of these crusher groups set up. So we can butt it right up against here. And the crushed stone can remain the same. So that wasn't too bad. Of course, we could run the belts down and test this, but we're going to run out of belts, I imagine, pretty quickly. So let's place the rest of these machines first so we have an idea of exactly how much space we're dealing with here. And then we could start placing all the resources we so happen to have on hand. And get it as complete as possible. I guess that's an advantage of doing these resources on the belt in the order they're here. So it means I don't have to keep looking at the belt to figure out, okay, which resource is next. I just know. That's weird how that didn't... I was thinking I could drag that over, but it didn't work. Probably some logic to why it did that in that way. These colors are pretty close to each other, so hopefully you're not colorblind, but you need to pay quite close attention to this to figure out exactly which things you need to click on. Seems good enough. Onwards. Batteries are pretty good. Crucinium especially can be hard to tell the difference. So they're very similar in color and very similar in appearance to standard crushed stone. It's probably about time to remove a mass amount of trees here. I mean, essentially all these trees are going to eventually be gone. And the last pattern, let's see if it places. We remembered all the resources we needed. Oop, it's in the wrong spot though. Oops. Alright. That's everything placed. We at least need the bus to go all the way down here. Which is an idea of the scope of what we're doing here. For now, though, we have trees that are in the way. So we know pretty much that all of this is going to have to go. At least all of that, anyway. So that the robots get to it while we're placing paths down to mark where the belt should go. Grab a bunch of stone bricks first. Doesn't have to stop at an exact point because it doesn't really matter. Just like that, out of bricks. Instead of 4,000, maybe we should increase the limit to 10,000. Because we're, even though they're only 2 units wide, we're sure using a lot of them. We're placing these by hand just because the sheer amount of time it would take the robots to do it and the amount of energy for tens of thousands of these being placed is just too much. So it's easier just to run up and down and place them all manually. We have an ore patch right in the middle of the bus. And even those 14,000 clay bricks wasn't enough either. So we'll probably have to increase those as well. I guess it would match if we increase those to 30,000. That's all the time we have for today, so I'll see you at the next episode.